something is definitely happening in our country right now from coast to coast. Where that something leads us, I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows. But what it says, that growing numbers of Americans are not happy with Donald Trump and the federal government he leads, and that growing numbers of Americans refuse to be silent about that, is undeniable right now. There are a few of the protests that broke out last night on your screen now. This is one in Minneapolis. There were protests in other cities like Dallas, Seattle, and New York. They, of course, follow the shooting death of 37-year-old mother of three, Renee Nicole Good. This right here is a moment of silence that was held by the NBA basketball team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Watch.
We're saddened by the tragedy that occurred yesterday in our Minneapolis community in the loss of Renee Nicole Good. Our thoughts are with her family and everyone affected, and our hearts are with our community as we hope for healing and unity during this challenging time. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you.
One basketball fan shouting there, "Go home, ICE." Others applauding. But the protests weren't just about what happened in Minneapolis. There was another ICE shooting Thursday in Portland, Oregon. Federal agents shot and injured two people. Both those people were taken to area hospitals. The Department of Homeland Security said that this shooting was also in self-defense and that the two injured people were suspected gang members. And again, that is what they're saying. That may turn out to be true. We don't know right now. Here's what the mayor of Portland, Keith Wilson, had to say.
Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents. When the administration talks about using full force, we are seeing what it means on our streets. The consequences are not abstract. They are felt in hospital rooms and living rooms, in the quiet moments when families try to make sense of what happened, what is happening. We know what the federal government says happened here. There was a time when we could take them at their word. That time is long past. That is why we are calling on ICE to halt all operations in Portland until a full and independent investigation can take place.
The Oregon Attorney General has also announced a formal investigation into the incidents in Portland today. The results of that investigation, as the mayor said, may find that what the federal government is saying about the shooting is true and accurate. That is always possible. But what's clear is that in this moment, the Trump administration has not earned the trust of anyone encountering these crises in their cities or their states, especially given their reaction to what happened in Minneapolis. The Trump administration has made claim after claim after claim that is being disputed or outright debunked, while making comments that suggest the outcome of any investigation they're doing is already determined, decided, which may be the case because only federal authorities have been allowed to take part in the investigation into the shooting. Here's what Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey had to say about that.
Donald Trump said that Renee ran the ICE agent over. Don't take my word for it. Don't take their word for it. Watch the video from every single angle. I mean, the ICE agent walked away with a hip injury that he might as well have gotten from closing a refrigerator door with his hips. He was not injured. I've seen worse injuries from doing that. And so give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step.
Mayor Frey also reiterated his call for local authorities to be allowed to participate in the investigation because he says the federal government cannot be trusted. Minnesota officials have launched their own probe and called on residents to submit whatever video evidence or other evidence they might have. That call came just hours before this video from the scene today was published by a local conservative-leaning Minnesota news outlet and then amplified online by J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. It is cell phone video taken by the agent who shot and killed Renee Nicole Good. Here it is.
change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Whoa!
Community and a country searching for answers after the shooting death of Renee Nicole Good by ICE is where we start today. I want to bring in former top ICE and DHS official Jason Hauser, also joining us, political analyst, host of the Bulwark podcast, Tim Miller's here, and with me at the table, host of Politics Nation, president of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton. We'll get to the video in a moment. I want to start, as I have so many moments like this with you, about the thing that is intangible, the thing that we can't predict, but the thing that you sort of intuit and lead and understand what's happening in the streets of American cities, near where the shooting occurred, far from where the shooting occurred. How do you assess this moment in terms of the public's reaction?
I think the public reaction has been, first of all, it's organic, not organized by any group, National Action Network, NAA, nobody. These are people that are outraged, and I think that is the real elements you need to build a shift in where the country's going. Because we're seeing people that don't normally march say, I'm going to hit the streets. This is absolutely unacceptable. And we're seeing now, it started with us raising the question of race, then gender, then LGBTQ. Now you're dealing with just somebody that's just there, and they feel they have the right to do whatever they want to do. And as you'll get to this tape they dropped today, what is that supposed to show? That people can be shot at because other people are cursing at people? The fact that these protests have been nonviolent, showing a higher level of morality and peaceful coexistence than federal officers and ICE. The contrast shows you what you need to see. The people that's angry and righteously angry as they are, have not broken windows. They've not burned down cities. I remember 5 years ago, Nicole, when the George Floyd killing happened and the family asked me to come into Minneapolis, we had to first deal with the people who were burning down stores.
I remember.
And then we got to the rallies that were nonviolent, and then I eulogized the funeral. That didn't happen this time. Yet the president of the United States and the head of Homeland Security said they were rioting and that they had to stop a rioters. What riot? Show us the film of the riot since you've got these tapes. Where's the riot that you say that they were doing? Where's the violence that you said was threatening your life? I think that the more they talk, the more they expose themselves. I always quote a wise man told me, a fish wouldn't get caught if they kept their mouth shut. The more they talk, the more they expose how, in many ways, they disregard the human and civil rights of citizens of this country.
When you look at as you point out, they're not organized by No Kings, which organized the 7 million
Right.
people in the fall. These are organic. They're breaking out in cities, as I said, far and near. ICE is in cities and towns all over our country, and the animosity toward ICE is so visceral. I mean, we can't play a lot of what people say about ICE because it usually is a one-syllable swear word that starts with F.
Right.
And so that is the most oft repeated chant against ICE by a lot of protesters in a lot of these cities. But what does it mean that the harder they sort of clamp down, not just on people in this country illegally, but on people protesting their treatment of people in this country illegally? They've thrown pepper balls at faith leaders. They shot and killed Renee Nicole Good. 2 people were shot in Portland. What does it say that as their tactics become more brutal, more and more people are taking to the streets?
I think that is saying that people are not going to sit back and allow them and their brutality to intimidate them and to take the country. I would be concerned if they were clamping down and we didn't see a reaction. The fact that we're seeing a reaction and a disciplined reaction, that they're not being provoked into anger, they're angry, but they are disciplined, I think is a good thing, and I think it's a bad forecast of where they want to go in this country. At the same time, we're seeing these organic marches and the movements forward. They clamp down, saying we're going to not even share evidence with the state. I mean, whoever heard of that? The state of Minnesota will have nothing to do with this. We're going to do this. At the same time, the president's sitting with the New York Times talking about, I have as much power. The only thing that can stop me is my own morality. Like, there are no rules. There's nothing governing me internationally or locally. And I think people are saying that is not the kind of government that we want and will allow to happen. And I think what happened to Ms. Good and the two that were shot in Oregon becomes an impetus for a lot of people to say enough is enough.